All right, recording started. So welcome to the Vancouver Rust Meetup. We're gonna start with our usual round of introductions. They're voluntary, as per a couple of meetups ago when we decided that we wanted to try this new system where you don't have to introduce yourself based on being called out. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, you can use a little raise hand option. If you click on that, then I can kind of have like a bit of a queue for people who want to introduce themselves. But yeah, I'm going to start first. So uh, I'm Jonathan. I run the Vancouver Rust meetups. I work for a company called Bitcool Technologies. Um, they also sponsor these events. Um, I'm not currently working on any Rust projects right now, but I'm working towards one. There's one that they promise. It's kind of in the pipeline, but yeah, I have to finish another project first before I'll be able to work on that. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to be able to actually work on a Rust project. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Um, so I think the only person who has raised their hand to do an introduction is Riley. So we'll go to you.
Hi, yeah, I'm Riley, software developer based in Vancouver, and I'm a member of the New Shell core team. It's sort of a newish command line shell written in Rust. I'm still relatively new to Rust, only been working in it for about 4 months or so, but yeah, enjoying it a lot.
Oh wow. I'm really surprised to hear that someone from the New Shell team is here. That's actually really cool. Does anyone else want to do introductions? I know we have some latecomers. Uh, Chevy, did you want to go?
Hey, yeah. Hi. First time at the Rust meetup. It's good to see you all. I've been using Rust for a few years now. I'm actually a game developer, and I've been using it. I'm an indie game developer, so I've been building my own tool set in Rust and using it for that. So it's a little different than a lot, but I think there's a big place for game development in Rust. So it's been really exciting to use it. It's like really performant and all that. So after 2 years of using it, it's now my favorite language. So I thought I'd see what other people in Vancouver were getting up to with it, because it was I'm just really passionate about it, and I'm always trying to egg everyone else I know into using it. I'm like, you should try it. Look how cool this is. Yeah. So, but yeah, good to meet you all. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, we've got a couple of questions, I think, already.
Hello.
Yeah, Michael was asking, do you use any ECS for your game?
Yeah, for me it's kind of a per game basis, but the ECS, the library that exists that I'm the most into right now is oh crap, now I'm forgetting the name of it. I'm just gonna not look on crates really quick. I forgot the name of it. I've been using it. I just have been doing graphic stuff for so long. Legion, sorry, is the ECS that I've been using.
Oh, okay.
It's very good. It's very cool. So the way Legion works is it has you create systems and components, and then you line up all your systems and you tell it the order that you added them, and you also, for each system, you tell it which components it needs mutability for and which components it doesn't need mutability. So what are you just reading and what are you just writing? And then it automatically builds a scheduler for you and runs everything in parallel that it can automatically, because it's well, I don't need mutability for this, and this. So these 4 systems I can run in parallel, and it just does all that automatically for you. It's very cool and really wicked for game development. It's so just fast out of the box. And it's just really you can just take tuples and turn them into entities and all this sort of stuff.
Right,
so it's got a really nice public facing interface. Bevy's entity component system is very good as well. I'm sure anyone who's looked at game development and Rust has seen Bevy. Their component system is very good as well and worth copying if you're not going to just straight up use Bevy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played with Bevy quite a bit, and yeah, I tend to like Bevy quite a lot myself. I don't know how many other people here typically do game dev with Rust. I think we have a lot of web developers, but yeah, I personally gaming is near and dear to my heart, and I love making games in Rust, or at least trying to. I haven't actually sat down with a serious project. I've tried using it in like a game jam once, and I've made like little tiny demos, but yeah. I do want to sit down and make a serious game sometime, but yeah, finding time to do that when holding down a full-time job and running a meetup and working on other projects is kind of difficult. There's scientific simulation projects using ECS now. Interesting. I did not know that. Huh. I wonder what it would be useful for, like outside of gaming. I've never like seen actual use of like ECS outside of making video games. So yeah, I'm not really sure what the use cases are there. Yeah. Do we have anyone else who wants to go ahead and do an introduction? I know that I think we had a couple more people join. Oh, Monte Carlo simulations. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Without further ado, then I think we'll just hop into things here. I was asked to do a quick plug for this event. I just posted in chat. It's called Rust Forum 2022. Yeah, it looks pretty interesting, and you can sign up for free, which is nice. The time zone might be a bit difficult to make it to the event live. I actually don't know. I didn't actually check, but the organizer said he was in the UK. But yeah, if you sign up for the event, you'll get access to the recordings, so you don't even have to actually attend. And they did this on purpose because they wanted to make sure that everyone would be able to view the videos on their own time if they weren't able to make it. So yeah, it's free. I recommend just if you want, just sign up and you'll have access to the recordings at least. Why not? But yeah, that's it for announcements. Oh, and yeah, before I start diving into like actual Rust talk, I want to do a little bit of meta discussion. We are looking for new organizers right now. I haven't told Bochan about this, but yeah, I kind of did a lot of thinking, and um, my main reasoning for this actually is I wanted to have these events in person again. It's been a couple years, since the pandemic started, and we all had to move to this remote setup. And I really wanted to be back in office. The plan was to actually do a hybrid event because I know there are people who like to come here from other parts of the world, like they don't have a meetup in their region, and this time works for them, and they just want to hang out with other Rust stations, and I don't really want to let them down. So yeah, the plan was to have it be hybrid. We'd have an online component, and we'd also have a local offline component as well in person. But due to how things have timed out, our office is actually going through renovations right now, and it just started. So unfortunately, I actually don't have an office space to host any meetups in. So yeah, I'm hoping that someone who's very keen and interested in Rust, who would be willing to help, organize some of these events. I mean, I'm not leaving as head organizer. It's not going to be like a super heavy burden for you if you decide that you want to join. But yeah, if you have an office that we can actually host in-person events at, I think that would be fantastic. Not strictly necessary. I am okay with people who want to join and don't have office space, but it is a big plus. So yeah, if you're interested, let me know, and yeah, we'll get in touch and talk things over, and maybe we'll add you as an organizer. So the best way to get in touch with me is to email me at jonathanrlouis@gmail.com, or you can just ping me on Meetup, direct message me there. You can let me know right now, and I can send you an email later, and we can try and figure something out. But yeah, that's pretty much it there. there's also a couple of changes happening to the meetup. I sent out an email fairly recently, but I know some people have joined since then and probably didn't receive that message. So just to reiterate, I think yeah, we're going to be alternating the meetup schedule a little bit. So I think starting July, we're going to have meetings every other month on the third Saturday of that month in the morning at 10 a.m. To better accommodate people's schedules. I know the majority of people did not like the current schedule. They thought, it's kind of intrusive. It's sort of during that dinner hour, and it's after a long day of work as well. So I decided, let's try weekends. People didn't really seem to hate the idea, at least. So yeah, we're gonna alternate the schedule. Every other month we'll have it on a Saturday, and on the other months we'll have it at the usual time. And maybe that'll also diversify the kinds of people who are able to make it to the meetups. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I had to say, I think. Yeah. And today's free talk day. I wanted to actually kind of get started with a subject that I thought was pretty interesting recently. So there's been several incidents that have happened over the last few months, I'd say, not just in the Rust community, but I think also in the NPM community. We've had some supply chain attacks, as I'm sure some of you are aware, where people are sneaking malicious code into libraries. So there was one in an NPM library that I remember seeing making headlines on all sorts of sites. That was, I believe, a few months ago. It wasn't really that long ago. And now, more recently, we've had an attack in the Rust community. So if you're not aware, the crate in question is Rust Decimal. I actually have a link because there was a security advisory for this. Let me see if I can pull it up.
I posted a link already.
Oh, you already did? Nice. Okay, cool. So yeah, there was a security advisory about this, and yeah, it's a typo squatting attack. If you're not aware, typo squatting attacks try to prey on people who accidentally, mistype the package name in their like cargo.toml file, or however they're trying to add their dependencies, and add the wrong malicious version of that dependency. And this one in particular, according to the blog post, seems like it did mostly the same thing as the actual Rust _decimal crate, except they snuck some malicious code in some constructor somewhere, I believe. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I've definitely seen a lot of discussion about this sort of thing in the past, like even 5-6 years ago, people were already discussing issues like this potentially happening in the Rust ecosystem. I don't think anything happened at the time, but I remember a lot of discussions around, should we have namespaced crates, right? Like that might help avoid these sorts of attacks to some degree, although you could also like, you could use typo squatting with like the actual name, right? The actual like author of the crate or organization that owns that crate too. It would help a little bit, I think, but yeah, it wouldn't exactly prevent the issues outright. Yeah, namespace libs would be nice. It sure would be nice. just in general to avoid like namespace conflicts and stuff too. I think that it would be nice, but unfortunately that's just not the way things have gone.
I have a quick question. So, I mean, if you had a namespace like crate,
Mhm.
aren't you like so vulnerable to like the typo squatting in the name of the
Yeah.
namespace.
Yeah, no, of course. You would still be. It's just some people have suggested that it would be less likely to occur. But yeah, I still think I agree with you that, you know, if you just tweak the name of your organization or whatever slightly, you could still make the same kinds of attacks. I think that's more of an argument for like allowing people to have the same crate name as other people, if anything. There's also been some discussion about, like, you know, having like a central authority, you know, sort of like a more Maven central kind of approach where stuff is a little bit more audited. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what's actually best here. Oh, we've got someone raising their hand. Amin?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, regarding that problem, I guess one thing that I've been doing is to enable the protected folder feature of Windows inside security, and it locks the folders. And I've moved all my development to a separate folder outside that protected folder, so I can do whatever I want during development. But those applications cannot change my like actual data on the hard drive. And I also use one firewall program in addition to Windows firewall. It's called Simple Wall or something. It blocks all the internet connection, and you can choose those apps that will have access to internet. So I guess with these two methods, you can pretty much prevent all those malware.
Mm-hmm. So it's like a sort of jailed environment for development then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that could definitely mitigate those issues. I haven't really seen people saying like that's the solution to go with. I've actually seen a lot of other suggestions. So I actually wanted to bring up another article that I read recently. Let's see. So we've got this article from LogRocket that compares supply chain safety tools, and that seemed pretty interesting. Like they suggest a lot of things, like cargo Geiger for like unsafe. I guess that's a little bit different. Um, you can also use cargo audit, right? There's like a Rust secure code working group. So that seems like a useful tool as well. Yeah, they suggest cargo deny for checking licensing issues. So I feel like this actually kind of goes outside of just, you know, supply chain attacks, but it's these are all pretty interesting, and I think probably useful tools. I don't know if anyone has actually used them. I actually personally haven't. I haven't really thought too hard about this stuff, but after, you know, seeing what's been happening recently, I'm definitely going to think about it a lot more before I start working on my next Rust project. Yeah, they talk about cargo OSHA, but then I didn't see any examples of that here. I thought that was a little bit weird. They just kind of like mention it in passing. They mostly just talk about cargo Geiger. It's cargo Krev. I think, yeah, that's where you have like a cryptographic signature, so you can like trust certain reviewers. Yeah, I've never seen anything like that done before, so I'm not really sure how that all works. But yeah, that's another idea. Reducing the chance of getting bit by licensing stuff is definitely nice. Cargo plugin keeps database of crates and ones with similar names. And if you use one that has less downloads than another with a similar name, it gives you a warning. I mean, that could work. I think someone did. I remember seeing a post somewhere where someone was thinking of using. I can't remember what kind of. It wasn't Hamming distance. I can't remember what distance it was. I should remember this, but I don't. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But they were trying to like see like if a crate name was off by like one character or something like that. Then it raises like some kind of warning, or if it's like a misspelling of a real word. Yeah, Levenstein distance. Thank you. But I remember a lot of people were saying no, that's actually a terrible idea because you have crates like request that use a W instead of a U, and so that's not really very helpful. But yeah, if you have like a database of crates and you keep track of the ones with similar names and ones with less downloads than others, then I think that can potentially be useful. It kind of depends, right? Like obviously if there's like a newer crate that comes out and people think that one's better and it just happens to have a similar name to an existing solution, then you're going to get warnings on that, while that one is still less popular, because that sort of situation does happen from time to time. Thinking about things like log and slog, for example. One offers structured logging, the one's just like a logging facade. But yeah, I mean that might be able to help to some degree. I'm not really sure. Anyone who does Rust for their company or other companies should use cargo deny. Yeah, that seems pretty useful. I definitely am adding that to our company's like best practices page for Rust projects. I actually added like everything from that article there. It just seems like that's a good idea. I mean,
So, I don't think these naming issues are like they don't change anything. Like we have had other issues in npm, for example. It was like this Node IPC or Color.js. They changed the code, the actual package, and the actual author of the package changed the code to be malicious. So, the
yeah,
naming doesn't,
that also can happen. Yeah, it's not just typo squatting. That's true. I mean, at some point you have to put some trust in the developers of the libraries, no matter what. I do think that maybe in ecosystems like npm and Rust, where anyone can publish a package, and where the ecosystem kind of encourages smaller packages and building up larger projects from like a whole bunch of different small packages. I think that means you have to trust a lot more people, and so you have sort of a higher chance of something bad happening. And I've seen definitely some arguments for creating like a fatter standard library for Rust. Like I know people who say like C# is a lot safer, right? Because their standard library has a lot more stuff, batteries included. And you can trust anything that's in the standard library. So yeah, I've definitely seen arguments in favor of not having such a lean standard library in Rust, and there's definitely drawbacks to that as well, as there are people who don't want to have to haul in the kitchen sink whenever they import standard. And I've also seen some arguments on the other side saying like, well, you also don't necessarily know that you can trust the standard library either, because someone malicious could end up being added to the team working on the standard libraries in the future, and they could insert some malicious code there somehow, perhaps. Might be a bit more difficult for that sort of thing to happen, but it is very remotely possible. So it does seem like a better plan in some ways, but it's not, you know, absolutely foolproof. Yeah, simply cannot trust human beings. Yeah, I mean that's why, you know, there's some ecosystems where they just have a central authority that tries to, you know, audit all the packages in the ecosystem and say like, oh yeah, these ones you can trust, these ones are fine. You know, some people have been trying things like package sets, especially more recently. I've seen a movement like towards package managers that support package sets in like the PureScript ecosystem, in the Idris ecosystem as well. Usually a little bit more experimental stuff, but yeah, there's definitely other ways to handle packages and package management, but yeah, nothing is like absolutely foolproof as far as I know. I don't really know if there's like a perfect solution out there because everything is kind of everything kind of, you know, depends on how much you trust other people. I guess like the best thing you can do is try to minimize the number of people that you have to trust. But you know, all it takes is one bad actor, right? So yeah, it is interesting to see like where exactly the attack surface is for a language. Um, yeah, in Rust, I'd say it's definitely a lot more of it is in the supply chain, um, less so in the code. Although there is, of course, that risk of, you know, unsafe or using like procedural macros and messing with like build.rs and stuff like that. So yeah, there are some scary things you can do, and unsafe can't catch everything either. There are some loopholes you can abuse to do sort of memory unsafe things in safe Rust, especially if you're abusing things like compiler bugs. So yeah, got to be very, very careful when you look for code to trust, I guess.
May I? It's been probably last fall or even last summer. Rust was the only language that fixed a known issue that affects any programming language that allows Unicode in the source code or UTF-8 or Unicode in general, because there are some Unicode glyphs characters. Don't ask me, that allow to remove the previous characters and inject some extras, or basically so it's not visible to in ordinary editors, and there could be malicious source code. Back then, Rust or Rust C was the only one who had it fixed. So
Yeah, I actually wasn't aware of that. But yeah, no, it's in every language, every ecosystem seems to have like different parts that are more vulnerable than others. Code when viewed on GitHub will actually display a warning if it contains code that has these Unicode characters. Oh, that's interesting.
There's also a VS Code extension for it.
Okay. So you can kind of work around it then. Well, if people actually are willing to install the extension or look at it on GitHub if you're using GitHub. What is the
Let me
VS
check
Code
for the
extension?
extension.
Unicode Consortium is actually attempting to fix this, but I'll check up on it recently. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm kind of curious to know what this extension is too.
If you use modern Rust, I'm pretty sure it's been fixed for half a year or so. That, like in any current Rust, you'll just get an error that it's a bad code or something's wrong.
But I mean, like for other projects, though, right? And not all of your files are necessarily going to be Rust or like .rs files too. I'm sure a lot of people have like shell scripts and other things floating around.
It is called Gremlins Tracker for Visual Studio Code. I sent the link.
Gremlins Tracker for Visual Studio Code. Okay. Cool. That's pretty nice. Definitely good for people who use VS Code. I think a vast majority of people I know use VS Code now. Security advisory. Oh, is this one where they fixed it? Interesting. What's this? Big list of naughty strings. List of strings that have high probability of causing issues when used as user input data. Okay. So this seems pretty useful for testing. Like you could just plug these in and see what problems you find. Honestly, it definitely seems pretty useful. Cool. All right. What else is there? So the next item that I actually have on my list, completely unrelated, is this. I just post it in here. Yeah, it's a new release for Cargo to Nix. I don't know how many people here actually use Nix. I've been using Nix a little bit lately, just kind of trying it out, messing around with it. I've seen more and more people and projects picking up Nix lately, and it seems to be kind of like a bit of a hype cycle. Just fair warning. But I know some diehard Knicks fans at work who are like, yeah, it's absolutely like the correct way to do reproducible software. But yeah, they just had a new release for Cargo to Nix. If in case you want to use Nix with a Rust project, particularly with Cargo, and you want to. I actually don't exactly know the reasoning behind these two Nix projects. I know they have a lot of these. Like there's like an npm to Nix. And there's a Cabal to Nix for Haskell. There's Cargo to Nix here, of course, for Rust. I think it just like turns Rust dependencies into like Nix packages or something that you can store in like the Nix store, so you have them cached. At least as far as I know. But yeah, there's a new update there. So if you're a Nix user and you work with it and Rust, then it might be useful to you. Not a fan, I see.
Yeah, I found it very hard to use. Its syntax is very weird, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying. I will say, like, having picked it up and trying to read the documentation for it, it's I kind of got used to the syntax. It is a little bit weird. I don't like a lot of how they've documented it. Like, I didn't find Nix pills to be particularly approachable. Yeah, it just doesn't really feel like a very good like beginner's guide. Sometimes looking up very simple things is very difficult. Like there's just no information on it. I often find myself digging into Nix derivations to figure out like what something does, because there's zero documentation on like a lot of the built-in like Nix packages functions. Everything is in an untyped language, so you literally have no like you don't even have types to tell you like, oh, this argument has this shape, right? So you just see like the name of the argument and you're like, okay, well, I hope it has this as part of it. Or you actually have to like look at where it's called in other parts of the code base and see like what kinds of things they're actually passing into it. Definitely kind of a frustrating experience. So yeah, I can totally understand any frustration you might have with it. I've definitely been there. It does suck. I don't know why people love this thing so much, other than the fact that it apparently does things right. It does things right, but it also does a lot of things very, very wrong, at least in my opinion.
So it doesn't support Windows, you know.
That too, that's also kind of a big killer. Yeah, there was a project, a work project recently that was interested in using Nix, but then yeah, just no support for like native Windows binaries. Kind of shut that down. Yeah. Well, when it works, and for the projects that it does actually work for, it works pretty well. But yeah, you can kind of get away with using Docker for a lot of the things that it already does, and it does a pretty decent job of making sure your build environments and stuff are reproducible already as it is. So yeah, I don't know. Nix definitely very hyped up tool these days, and I guess we'll see what actually happens with it. My prediction is that someone will just build a better Nix at some point, and everyone will just kind of forget about it. And hopefully, it'll also support Windows.
See you. Thank you.
All right.
See you.
Take care. Bye. What else? I have another article here. Yeah, Rocket had another release candidate released, which is yay, I guess, if you use Rocket. I don't know how many people use Rocket. Last time I talked about a project that I was working on that was using Rocket, a lot of people are like, "No, we all just use Actix these days." I think that's probably true here today as well. But yeah, I did actually try out Rocket. Not because I had a particularly like good reason to choose it or anything, just because I just wanted to try it. And I picked the last release candidate 0.5, I think, yeah, RC1. Yeah, it worked okay. I'd say that I think there were a few issues that I had with it that were that made it kind of difficult to use. I think it was like debugging issues around like templates. I had some headaches there, but otherwise it seemed all right. I mean, I don't know. I haven't done extensive comparisons against like Actix at all. I've never actually used Actix, so not really sure. But yeah, if you're interested in trying another web framework that isn't Actix, there is also Rocket. There are also other options out there too besides those two, but those are the sort of big ones that I know of. And so that Rocket takes forever to update. Like they rarely release new versions of Rocket. Progress on Rocket is notoriously slow, shall we say.
I think for Actix, it was also sort of the same issue where like Actix took about maybe like a year or so to come out of like all the betas and releases.
Mhm. I think that Actix is just a lot further along though. In general, I like. I think that they're like outside of they're not doing like release candidates and stuff at this point, right?
No, I think 4 came out already, but there were, I believe,
Yeah.
release candidates.
Yeah, it's just that Rocket has been around for like a very long time. Like I remember hearing about Rocket, and someone did a presentation on Rocket. Like I don't remember how many years ago it was at this meetup, and yeah, they're saying like, yeah, no, it's still not done. You know, like a lot of there's a lot of issues still, and and now like several years later, it also is still not done. I know that a lot of people kind of rallied behind Actix, especially because it was so performant, right? Like it was at the top of the tech and power benchmarks or whatever um, for a while. I don't know if it still is, but yeah, it was like the fastest web framework, and a lot of people really liked it, even though it had all that that drama around unsafe usage and stuff. It's good that people think about that stuff, but yeah. Relatively fast else, I think I check out Poem. Sync GraphQL. Okay. Yeah, there's another option, Poem. I've never actually heard of Poem, but there's probably a ton of Rust web frameworks that I haven't heard of. Yeah, and then there's Axum. Yeah, did you want to talk about Axum a little bit, Riley?
Oh, sure. To be honest, I don't have much to compare it to. I'm relatively new to Rust. I heard good things about Axum on Hacker News, and it's made by the same people, or some of the same people behind Tokyo, so I get the impression that it's quite well supported. And I built a few small little apps with it, and it was quite painless.
Cool. Yeah, again, I've never tried anything else outside of Rocket, so I guess a lot of us have tried like one solution and not any of the others, and we don't really have a good way to compare them all. It would be interesting to see some comparisons, like outside of just performance, between all the web frameworks, because I know like most people are very focused on like, Actix is the fastest web framework, therefore you should kind of use that one. But there are other aspects that I think are kind of important, like how easy is it to use? How easy is it to like debug things? What kinds of things does it come with out of the box?
Yeah, big companies use Ruby, so what's the like?
Yeah.
Where's the performance issue?
Interesting. So Poem's author thinks that Axum router is or was not very performant, and that's why he made Poem. Yeah, I'm sure that there'll be many more web frameworks to come.
Michael, do you know what makes Poem faster from a dev cycle perspective? Or just quick to compile, or is it something else?
Open API integration built in. I'm not too familiar with Open API, I'll be honest. Yeah, I'm mostly working on like database connectors, so I don't do a lot of web dev. I like rarely ever touch front end stuff unless I actually, actively do it myself on my own time. Home's the only one that has Open API integrated. Interesting. No, maybe have to look into that at some point. Or was. Yeah. You never know. Things are always changing. Things change so fast. It's like how people started with like failure and then they jumped to anyhow. And I'm sure there were like other things in between. I can't remember them all. I remember like there was snafu and like error handling crates in Rust were like JavaScript web frameworks. It was like a new one every single day. All right. The last thing that I had was this article. It's about GATs. Which is a nightly feature, by the way. It's not stabilized. I actually haven't finished reading this article. I got like halfway through. It's kind of long, but yeah, it was kind of interesting. I kind of liked the walkthrough, like so the breakdown of like the steps that the compiler sort of takes to you know, plug in the lifetimes and everything. Yeah, so this article is actually saying that GATs in their in the form that they will be stabilized in are pretty useless, and you're gonna have to do some hacky stuff to work around that. Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting. I haven't played around with GATs too much. I have done like a little bit of stuff with it, but yeah. I know you can also do like hacky versions of like monads and applicatives and stuff with GATs, which is interesting, but probably not that useful. But yeah, that's an interesting article if you're interested in GATs. It definitely seems like it has some pretty big limitations right now, and not too much planned in the future to alleviate those limitations. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I've got. If anyone has anything that they want to talk about or any cool projects they want to share, any stories that they saw that they think were interesting or whatever, now's the time. It's free talk. I was gonna say free talk Friday, but actually it's the Wednesday. Nobody? Nobody working on anything interesting? Not even our new shell developer?
Yeah, do people here know what new shell is?
I
Okay, so
kind of know what new shell
That's
is.
my default shell.
oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So for others, it's a command line shell written in Rust, and the main idea behind it is that data is structured. So it's like actual tables, and it's working on typed data instead of, you know, the old Unix everything is a string philosophy. Yeah, I'll send a link to it, but it was started about 2 years ago. The lead developer is a guy named Jonathan Turner, who used to be the TypeScript program manager, and now he's on the Rust core team. And yeah, I joined them a couple months ago and have been helping out.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't know that. So did you join recently then, or?
Yeah, pretty recently. I'm just sort of on a sabbatical. I'm taking like 6 months off work. And New Shell kind of got to a point where I could use it as my daily driver. And I was like, oh, great, this is a fun, motivating reason to learn Rust. And yeah, I've just been diving into that.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I'd actually love to hear more about New Shell. So yeah, if it's okay with you, I might hit you up later to come in and like talk about New Shell a bit more.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to give a presentation or something next time.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Random new unsoundness bug. Yeah, these happen, unfortunately. What is this one? Using values of type ID in the type system is unsound. What is type ID? I have never heard of this.
I think type ID is in the std any, the any crate. It's like the dynamic type you can cast things to. It's not. I would never touch that with a 10-foot pole, but you
Yeah.
can get type IDs from like dynamic boxing stuff into any types, and then it's like you can downcast. It's super shady, last resorty type stuff.
Huh.
It's not too dissimilar from C++ type IDs, but a little different since the C++ is more like a templated compiler thing. But
Hmm.
yeah, I guess they're a little shaky. But
So is this like
I feel like if you're using std you're already in a bad spot. You should maybe backpedal. But
yeah, it sounds to me like some sort of like limited form of reflection, I guess.
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I'd say you can do tricks to like make reflective like lookup type stuff based on type IDs. I don't know.
I've never played with type ID myself. Actually, that might be a lie. I may have played with it like a long time ago when messing around with like my own implementation of an ECS back when I first started Rust. But yeah,
They can kind of play a role there. Cast you when you want to have like dictionary lookup collections of like type stuff. But I feel like also I just was using it early on when I started using Rust because I was like, I can't get this type system in lifetimes to do anything I want, so I'm just gonna try to look for ways to cheat.
oh no.
Before he started actually just learning, I can just code better and not have to do this.
Yeah, I've messed with any before. I was playing around with um I don't I was playing around with something kind of dumb. And yeah, I remember messing with that and messing around with transmute as well as a result of it. And oh boy, unsafe, undefined behavior everywhere very fast. Yeah, transmute is so dangerous. You like transmute? How do you work with transmute?
It's like how people like skydiving or jumping from building to building. It's like that. It's like I like it.
I find it so
When I
hard to
want
work
to,
with.
yeah, when I want to shut the compiler up, so it starts.
Oh no.
Transmute is just
You,
Rust try catch.
you can use you can use it to extend the lifetime of some references.
Mm. That seems pretty scary. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very unsafe. Like the unsafe thing that you can do. You can also like it's similar to you can use it similar to const test in C++ to make something like mutable for limited scope.
Okay.
Yeah, I currently just what you're talking about actually extending lifetimes. It's super sketchy sounding, but I use it to create mutable iterators over a couple of custom data structures I use. And you just have to really make sure not to let those like cascaded mutable references access anything above outside of themselves. But it can be useful. But GAT's generic associated types are going to fix that anyway. So for my specific use case, I mean, so. But it's got a place. It's just sketchy.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely. Every time I play with unsafe, or at least with transmute, something goes wrong. I'm not very good with that. So I think there was actually some effort recently to try and like formalize or like build like some kind of safe subset of transmute. I think it's called like safe transmute or something. I actually don't remember. I remember there was also like a joke crate called safe transmute, which actually is not safe, but it uses no unsafe code to do unsafe transmutes. So not to be confused. But yeah, I think I remember seeing some some effort to try and like make certain transmutes safe, but I can't remember off the top of my head what that was.
If no one here uses BiteMuck, BiteMuck actually has a really handy thing. It's the POD type. I don't know if anyone's seen that.
I don't
It's
know
a
what
plain old data type.
I
So
have.
just your types are plain old data. It's just pointers. There's no magic drop stuff happening or any. So I feel like playing with transmute in that sort of space where you're using the POD trait and making sure everything you're working with is really just bytes at the end of the day. That can be kind of handy. BiteMuck's kind of a neat crate, and it's like if you're really just want to I just want to work with pointers and stuff like that. It can kind of help wrap that in a little bit more of a safer REST shape. It's pretty cool. Because sometimes you just want to transmute, right? No, I just want to code C for a little bit. I don't want to program Rust right now. I just want to code C.
Okay, yeah, I've never heard of BiteMuck before. What is BiteMuck exactly?
It's just like, it's kind of transmuty. It's like, what if a safe wrapper around the idea of transmuting, like between data
Oh,
types.
okay.
So plain old data, it's just like their plain old data trait is they implemented it on all the Rust primitive types, and you can implement it on your types
Right. Okay.
in a
Yeah.
way that you can judge that is safe. It can be really useful. I run into it because in game development, when we're working with graphics cards and things like that, you upload a lot of data to graphics card for like, frame buffer data, a lot of like vertex attributes and all this kind of stuff. And it's all pointers, and you're just loading structs into giant arrays and just being like, here, graphics card, render 5 billion triangles. And so you're quite often doing a lot of transmuting of data, but it's all really just bytes you're sending to the graphics card. So stuff like BiteMuck is really handy, because I can just kind of wrap it in like a neat little thing that makes sure I don't, light my ass on fire with unsafe.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. I mean, I've only used Bevy and I've never touched unsafe, so
Yeah, I'm doing like low level WGPU stuff and my own things instead of being smart and using a game engine like a grown up. But that's just because I like doing it.
Oh, that's cool. I respect it. I don't know if you write your own game engine, then yeah, that's really cool. I definitely know a lot of people in the Rust community who love to just write game engines, and that's kind of pretty much what they do. So yeah, that's pretty neat. How hard is it to write a game engine? I guess it kind of depends on what you're doing, right?
In Rust, it's pretty easy because there's a lot of existing tools out there already. Like when I came in, even by the time I came in, the ecosystem was already pretty good. Most of the Rust like engines and libraries that are out there, not like libraries specifically, like the ECS libraries, the windowing libraries like Winit, and the like graphics wrappers like Vulkan and OpenGL and DirectX wrappers and Windows like wrappers, all that stuff's like way better than like the C++ equivalents already. Like, so by the time I started Rust, I was just like, wow, this is way nicer than using like all the C++ versions of these libraries. So it's like, it wasn't particularly hard. I wasn't like, oh, I'm trying out this new language. It was like, this is already better than what I was doing before. So it's just because Rust kind of has this like what's it, like community, like whatever, this is ethos of writing really nice libraries. Everything's nice and documented and like has a tutorial and always has like an examples and like runs a bunch of tests. So many libraries do that stuff, whereas like I'm used to just grabbing libraries that just some dude named Esteban, who I've never heard of, wrote it, and it's on GitHub, and then it's gone, and it only exists on my hard drive, etc. So it was a big step up for me. Because game development's never had the like ecosystem that like web dev has. It never had an npm. We never had a really good package manager for all our stuff. And coming into Rust, which is really influenced by a lot of web dev, where everyone's sharing a lot more of what they're working on. It's really been nice being able to like ride the tailgate of that.
because it's like, oh, game dev could be more like this because we don't share our code because every game company keeps their own proprietary crap. But I'm hoping that if more people start using Rust, maybe we'll get a little bit better.
Good luck. Yeah, it's cool to see Rust being used more and more in game development. I know there's like a few studios that are using it, like Embark, and I think Chucklefish at one point was using it. I don't know if they still are, but yeah, definitely nice to see more Rust representation. And yeah, definitely agree. Like I know cargo has its drawbacks, and supply chain attacks and stuff have been happening, but I still think that yeah, just that sort of ability to just make a library and upload it really lowers that barrier of entry for pushing crates and stuff like that. Bye. And yeah, really makes things a lot easier. And the best practices for Rust are very well established, very clearly defined. Like documentation is way better. I don't have nearly as many issues as I do even in like Java. Like try to write a Maven plugin in Java, and like figuring out how to like integration test the damn thing is like impossible because the documentation is like really old and outdated, and it's not been maintained at all. Doesn't describe like anything. I find like in Rust that happens a lot less often. I mean, there are still some like small crates out there, made by people who are maybe a bit newer to the Rust community, or haven't really cleaned things up or finished, and those aren't necessarily going to be very well documented. But I feel like Rust already gives you a lot of the tools to like generate documentation and test stuff really easily. So yeah, I tend to agree. Like the sheer quality of like the packages in the Rust ecosystem feels a lot higher than some of the stuff I've worked with in other languages. So yeah. Anything else? Anyone else have something they want to talk about? Cool projects? Maybe uncool projects? Stuff that they've been working on?
So I have a little like tiny little exploration project. It's sort of like not working at the moment right now, but if you guys are interested in it, I can share it. It's like basically it's a reverse proxy, but it's like a toy one, right? So a reverse proxy is sort of like an example is Nginx or HA proxy. It connects front ends to back ends. So when it accepts a TCP connection, it routes it to some back end TCP connection, basically for load balancing, or to like public facing front end, private facing back ends. So I was doing this in Rust, and it's not working properly right now. But if you guys want to see the code, I can show it to you guys.
Sure. Go ahead and share.
So it's based on a blog post actually. I'll link that later in the chat. But the way it works, and excuse the background noise here at an airport. Using Tokyo here for like the async runtime. It's Tokyo main. And I sort of am trying to make it so it's configurable like at runtime. So nothing is really not, I guess, like these things would be like taken in from some sort of like configuration from some sort of like channel or something. Maybe there's like a TCP connection for like the control panel or the control plane where it takes in like, for example, add a new front end to X service, right? So open up, my website service and start serving it at this IP address, or sorry, this port number here. So think of it like that. So multiple front ends. And then we would have one backend here. So this would be like the actual service running on the cloud. Normally it would be backwards. You have multiple instances of the backend and just one front end, but I just did it in reverse. So anyways, so the way it works is you have this function called proxy, and you basically proxy the front end to the back end, and then you want to get the handle and then just wait for the handle to be done. So the proxy looks like this. We spawn like a Tokyo task, which is basically like a code routine or a green thread. We connect to the front end, and we basically loop forever, accepting connections. So when we get a connection, we spin up another task on the Tokyo code routine, and connect to the backend, and then basically shuffle the bytes back and forth between the backend and the front end. So this serve function here is shuffling the bytes, basically TCP connections. It reads a certain amount from the front end TCP connection into a buffer, and then pushes them out to the backend as a writer. And then crisscross applesauce, we have the front end write and the backend read. And that's about it. That's all it does. It sort of works. So I don't know why it's slightly broken. I got a few request timeouts. I'm using this little load test tool called OHA. Basically right now, 8080 is like the actual service. So this little pane here represents the control, and this is like the experimental here, 2506. So the service is actually running on 8080. I did 500 requests through 100 workers, and we see that we got 200 HTTP 200 response to it for the 500 requests. Here's like the histogram of the response time, and then this is going through the reverse proxy. This basically the code you're seeing here is actually running live. We're using one of the front end ports. There's 3 of them defined, but I'm just using this one here. This again, I'm using 500. I'm making 500 requests through 100 workers, and we do see some failure. We see 38 of the responses are basically timing out. I'm not sure why this was working before, but it's broken now. So gotta dig into it. But that's it. Any questions?
I honestly don't know much about proxies, so
Yeah, I don't either. I actually had no idea how they work. I just saw somebody play with them and posted their code, and I'm like, wait, let me play with it as well. So let me link the original code. I got this from somebody else. I just changed it a bit or a lot.
okay.
Yeah, so here's a link to this code is old. It's like 2 years old, and it won't compile or work anymore. So I like cleaned it up a bit. So interesting thing about the proxy, it's really dumb. It's like at the TCP layer, so it doesn't even like parse any HTTP. So you can't do like URL parsing and going to different backends depending on the URL. None of that stuff. It doesn't handle like the TLS handshake or any of that. It's like very, very low level. And it's not, unfortunately, it's not as low level as I wanted it to be. In fact, there's this thing called a SYN flood attack. So basically in the TCP connection, there's like a handshake. In the TCP protocol, there's like a handshake where the client sends like a SYN, like a synchronized message, and then the computer sends like a SYN, the server sends a SYN ACK back, and then waits for the client to send an ACK again. So it's like a 3 messages being exchanged. So in this SYN flood attack, the bad guy, the bad client, like a botnet client, sends a bunch of SYN packages without really like sending the ACK back. So the server is always sending the SYN ACK back and kind of waiting and like using memory until it times out for the client to send the ACK back. So this is done this is like a TCP sort of level, and it's done at the like Linux kernel level, which I know nothing about. So I wanted to like mess with that and try to like prevent sort of like DDoS attacks through my proxy.
Okay.
Can't do that with this.
Interesting. Is that a limitation of Tokyo?
No, it's not a Tokyo thing. I don't know. I think it's lower. It's the operating system layer or even lower. So I would have to dig into more to see what can happen. But it's not a Tokyo thing. limitation specific.
Yeah,
I would have to use something else in Tokyo, maybe.
I couldn't remember because I seem to recall like several years back, someone was complaining about I think it was Tokyo, but I'm not sure, not being like low level enough, and I think they use like Metal IO or something else. I think it was, or is it Mio? I don't even remember anymore. But yeah, I was wondering if that was related to this, but I have honestly no clue.
I'll look them up. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. Don't mind me. I just spouting random thoughts that came to
Yeah,
mind.
well, mine is just random code. I'm just exploring. I don't know what I'm doing. Do not run this in production.
Cool. So does anyone else have anything they want to talk about, or cool projects, uncool projects, comments, questions about the meetup?
Is anybody going to RustConf? They're going to be announcing the talks pretty soon. I think they've just gone through acceptance phase on those. That's the one in Portland, I believe.
Yeah, I know they have an annual RustConf. I actually
Yeah, they're actually doing it in Portland, so it's actually happening. Did anybody like submit talks or anything like that? I know a few people who did that didn't get accepted, but I was curious if anyone was going out for it. I've been to Portland in a while. The last time I went was pre-pandemic. It was very nice, and I was like, oh, I want to go to RustConf. I think I might next year though. I missed this one, but I was wondering if anyone else was going, because then I can be jealous of you.
I actually didn't know that RustConf was happening again. Well, at least soon, but yeah, maybe I'll check it out. I don't know.
August, I believe.
August, okay.
I think they post the videos later on YouTube, so
Yeah, they
I'm
do.
Yeah.
excited to go. Yeah.
It's always
Yeah, I
nice
think
to see the videos.
well, last meetup we just watched an old talk from RustConf 2018 and talked about that. So yeah, they definitely post these. Call for papers is closed. Okay. Yeah, I never applied to do a talk. Yeah, I guess wait, I guess they don't have a schedule up yet, do they? Guess that they'd be posting that later. Seems like it's a little bit early. Yeah, all I see is this closed CFP thing. All right. Well, if there's nothing else that anyone wants to talk about, then yeah, we can end the meetup here. I think it's a pretty good point to stop. I don't know if you want to chat, Bochan, but I have a little bit of time still, so.
I think I have to go in 15 minutes. So I think we can chat.
Yeah, let's chat for like for like 15 minutes. Yeah. Otherwise, thank you for coming to today's meetup. It means a lot to me that people are out here and they're still interested in Rust. They're still coming out to these meetups, eager to listen and chat about Rust. And yeah, I guess before we go, I would like to do a quick call for participation in case anyone here is interested in talking about anything at all Rust related. They want to do a quick talk at one of our meetups. Just a reminder, you can always ping me or Bochan and let us know, and we can schedule you in for one of our future meetups. But yeah, with that, take care, everyone. Thank you for coming. Oh, someone just joined. Hey, Matt. We're actually just ending. Sorry. Yeah, it's a little bit late.
Yeah, I figured. I had another meeting that just got done. But yeah, cheers all.
All right. Take care, everyone.